my mother said. I realize you paid $720,000 to rescue our home. But we're deeding the house over to your sister as her wedding present. Then my sister added, and don't show up to my wedding. I smiled and asked, Dad, want me to tell them or will you? His fork clattered. And that was only the beginning. A week later her dream day went sideways. My phone buzzed with 60 missed calls. Can you imagine spending over $750,000 to save your family's home, only for your mother to declare it a wedding gift for your sister? Who then tells you with a smirk that you're not even invited? What would you do when everything you've sacrificed is thrown back in your face, and all you have left is a secret you've been keeping for years? It was a Sunday. The aroma of roast chicken, usually a comforting presence in the familiar dining room. But that evening, the air felt thick, not with gravy, but with unspoken words and a carefully constructed script my mother was about to deliver. My dad, usually jovial, just poked at his plate, as if the peas held dark secrets, while my sister, Chloe, practically beamed, letting her engagement ring catch the light like a tiny, mocking spotlight. My mom, she didn't clear her throat or soften the blow. She just laid her napkin down like a judge's gavel hitting the bench. Caleb, she said, her voice unervingly even. I know you spent $720,000 to save our house, but we are signing it over to Chloe as a wedding gift. The entire room seemed to tilt. The old AC unit kicked on with a sudden growl, and I could hear the fridge's ice maker rattling in the quiet. Then Chloe, my 28-year-old sister, leaned back, a smug smirk spreading across her face. And don't even think about coming to my wedding, she added. It's for immediate family and people who don't make everything about themselves. My fork froze mid-air, hovering over a mountain of mashed potatoes. I could literally feel my pulse thumping against the handle. I met her eyes, a slow, cold smile spreading across my own lips. Dad, I said, my voice dangerously level. Should I tell them or will you? That's when it happened. His fork, laden with chicken, clattered to the porcelain plate with a small, honest sound that echoed in the sudden, crushing silence. Mom frowned, her perfectly coiffed eyebrow twitching. Tell us what? She demanded. Chloe's eyes widened, a performance of pure, innocent confusion. What is this, Caleb? Another lecture. I watched Dad's jaw clench, the muscles fluttering beneath his skin as he stared fixedly at his plate. The silence in that room was a physical weight. Nothing, he finally mumbled too quickly. There's nothing to tell. I slowly pushed my chair back, the scrape of wood against the floor a stark punctuation. Okay, I said, standing up. Then I'll tell it. That was the first crack. The night wasn't over, not by a long shot. It was just where the mask began to slip. This house. It's the place I grew up. The one with the warped porch step. The Aurelia bushes my grandpa planted that still stubbornly bloom every spring. My dad worked himself to the bone at the auto parts warehouse until his back finally gave out. Mom. She was everything and nothing. All the PTA meetings, the church bake sales, the kind of gossip that masquerades as concern. Chloe, she was the prodigy. Piano recitals, speech team trophies lining the hallway corkboard. I was the kid with flashcards and calluses on my hands from scrubbing dishes at the local diner after school. Medicine for me wasn't some glamorous dream. Pre-med meant juggling 2 jobs, driving a busted Honda with no heat, and a coffee addiction that probably shaved years off my life. Residency. I practically lived in call rooms that reeked of bleach and fear. My first few years as an attending surgeon. It was mostly bones and budgets. I learned to build a life the way I set a fracture. Line up what's crooked, hold it steady, let it heal. The problem was, my family dynamic never healed. Just calcified. My mom's favorite line, a constant hum in the background, was always, "We raised you, you owe us." It shifted shape depending on the bill. Property taxes, a new roof, Chloe's tuition, her car insurance, that emergency plumber who turned out to be a distant cousin doing us a favor. Every request for money came wrapped in a compliment I was supposed to swallow like bitter medicine. "You're so successful now, Caleb. This is nothing to you." Dad never asked. He just looked perpetually tired. After the warehouse laid him off, he stopped meeting my eyes. He started calling me Doc, like it was some kind of private joke that never quite landed. Chloe. She didn't ask either. She demanded. Venmo me for the LSAT class. It's basically investing in the family. You want a lawyer in the family, right? When she didn't get into law school, the story changed. Okay, MBA is better anyway. Then when she dropped out of that, wedding planning is a full-time job. Years ago, when the recession hit, that adjustable rate mortgage my parents should never have taken, it spiked. The house started sinking. Mom called me, her voice thick with tears. They'll take our home, Caleb. Your father will die if he has to move. I was on trauma call, just scrubbed out from a nasty femur nail surgery. Sweaty, starving, and stubbornly hopeful. I'll fix it, I promised. And I did. I wired the money. $720,000. It wasn't one big check. It was a relentless drip of crisis. First to stop the foreclosure. Then to clear the liens I didn't even know existed. Then to pay off a second mortgage I'd only just discovered. Sheriff sale date, hey. Contractor lien, hey. Delinquent taxes, hey. Every single transfer was meticulously labeled in my banking app. I took screenshots like we take intra-op fluoros. Proof of alignment. My thumbs learned the rhythm of my bank's two-factor code by heart. First, there were acknowledgements. Mom would text me heart emojis and photos of those darn Aurelia bushes blooming. Dad would send a thumbs up. Chloe even posted a selfie on the porch. Home sweet home. Family forever. No tag. No credit. The credit came in other ways. Shifts I didn't take. Vacations I canceled. A ring I didn't buy for a woman who eventually got tired of me always choosing family drama over her. And she left. My colleagues joked about my mystery mortgage. I joked back, because the only other option was to admit I was financing my family's elaborate denial. Then the demands sharpened. Chloe's fiancé, Liam, slid into the family group chat like he'd always lived there. Hey big bro, he wrote once. Can we move the wedding to the house? Vibe. Saves costs, since you've got it covered. Mom immediately chimed in. Isn't that a lovely idea? We could host the rehearsal dinner too. I typed and erased for 10 minutes. Finally I just wrote, let's talk after I get out of surgery. By then I'd learned to keep receipts. A deed. The note I'd scrawled to myself the night I wired that first massive sum. And most importantly, the notarized agreement Dad signed 2 years ago. I'd told him then. I couldn't keep paying without clarity. We sat at the kitchen table, the very same one where Sunday dinner was served, and he finally met my eyes. I messed up, he'd said, his voice flat, hollow. I kept taking out lines of credit to keep your mother happy. I didn't tell you, because telling me would make him the villain. Because asking would make me say no. I told him I'd clear all the arrears and continue paying the mortgage. If the house transferred to an LLC I controlled, they could live there rent-free, as long as they paid utilities and didn't encumber the property again. It wasn't an eviction. It was oxygen. He signed a file. The county clerk stamped it. I even have a photo of that green stamp on my phone. I didn't tell Mom. Dad didn't either. He said, she'll never forgive me if she finds out I lost the house. You didn't lose the house, I'd corrected him. He saved it. For all of us. He nodded and we kept the secret, a bad splint holding a deeper fracture. Something that holds but not well. The emotional unpaid labor. That's harder to itemize, but I could. The midnight calls. Chloe needs a deposit for the venue. The 6 a.m. calls. The water heater died. The way Mom would call me selfish if I paused. All that money and no wife. What are you even doing with it? Do you want us homeless? Every no I tried to practice came out as a yes, because no one else could carry it, and I couldn't bear to watch them drown. The small, shattering moment arrived 2 months before that fateful Sunday dinner. I found out because a notary called me by accident. "Hi, this is Denise from Mobile Sign," she said. "Just confirming the deed gift tonight. Transferring 114 Remington to Chloe and Liam." I was in clinic, already 3 patients behind, staring at an X-ray on my screen like it held the answer to this bizarre puzzle. "I think you have the wrong number," I mumbled, but deep down I knew she didn't. "Called Dad." He didn't pick up. So I texted him a photo of my stamped deed to the LLC, with a simple chilling line. "We need to talk." He wrote back one word. "Tonight." We sat in the garage, the place he hides to smoke cigars when Mom's mad. He couldn't even look at me. "She wants it," he finally said. His voice barely a whisper. "She says you'd understand. That you'd be happy for your sister." "It's not yours to give," I stated, my voice flat. He rubbed his forehead, a gesture of deep weariness. "You'll make this ugly if you tell her." "You already made it ugly," I countered, "by keeping her in the dark." He didn't answer. So I waited. I let him decide if he'd tell Mom the truth. He didn't. He let her build her dream gift in her head like a flimsy gazebo. He let Chloe pick out wallpaper on Pinterest. He let Liam measure the backyard for a wedding tent. And then, Mom invited me to dinner to announce the present. I was supposed to applaud. Mom's voice had that brittle, saccharine brightness. "It's symbolic, Caleb. Family continuity. Your grandfather left this house to us, and now we pass it to your sister. That's how families work." Chloe crossed her arms, a triumphant glint in her eyes. "It's not like you need a house. You practically live at the hospital." Liam shrugged from the couch, like a man observing a strange play. "We'll take good care of it, bro." Pulled out my phone. I opened the photo album I'd meticulously labeled House, the one filled with scans, records, wire confirmations. I placed the phone on the table, right between the salt shaker and the pepper grinder. The first photo, the county record. Remington Place deed, recorded grantee. Our Home LLC. The second, the notarized occupancy agreement. The third, the bank transfers. April 4th, $185,000. June 19th, $152,000. September 1st, $210,000. A stack of smaller ones, like stitches holding a gaping wound closed. Mom blinked at the screen, then up at me, her face pale. What is this?" she stammered. "The reality," I said, my voice steady, uncompromising. "I paid. I recorded the deed. Dad signed an occupancy agreement. The house is in an LLC. I own the LLC. You live here rent-free. You don't get to give it away." Chloe let out a sharp, too loud laugh. "That's fake. You made a fake thing." She tapped the glass with her nail, as if she could smudge the county seal. Dad said nothing. His silence arrived like a third, unspoken person at the table. "Dad," I said softly, pleading. "Please." He inhaled, the kind of deep, shuddering breath you take just before anesthesia. "It's true," he confessed, his eyes still glued to the tabletop. "Caleb saved the house. It's his." It took a second for that truth to land. Mom's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. You went behind my back," she gasped. "I saved our home," I said, flattening my hands on the table because I could feel them shaking. "I let you stay because you're my parents. But you don't get to pretend it's yours to gift to Chloe like a favor, with my name completely erased." Chloe's voice shot out, sharp and venomous. "So, you're stealing our inheritance." "Wow." "It wasn't an inheritance," I retorted. "It was a foreclosure. It was 2 liens. It was 6 years of me choosing you over vacations, over relationships, over sleep." Liam muttered. "Man, this is so dramatic," like he was stuck in a movie he didn't enjoy. Mom tried her old tool, the conjured tears. "Look at you," she sobbed, "throwing it in our faces. After everything we did, after I raised you, after you asked me for another $3,200 last week for utilities that were actually a deposit for Chloe's venue." My voice didn't rise, but it cut through her pretense. "No more. The house is safe. You can live here under the agreement you signed." You cannot transfer it. And if you try, I'll get an injunction. I've already retained counsel. Chloe sprang up, her chair scraping loudly across the floor. You're not invited to my wedding, she shrieked. I looked at her, then at Dad. You were going to sign it anyway, weren't you? He closed his eyes. I didn't know how to tell her. Mom slammed her hand on the table. Get out. Gladly, I said. I'll be by tomorrow with the lease addendum we talked about, Dad. Utilities in your name. No events at the house. That includes weddings. Chloe laughed again, disbelief curdling into pure rage. You can't stop me. Try me, I said, and left before my shaking hands could betray me. I slept badly that night. It felt like post-op when a simple case starts to bleed internally, and you don't see it until recovery. I kept replaying the dinner, the exact sound of Dad's fork hitting the plate. I kept thinking about the girl I didn't marry because there was always some new family emergency, some new financial demand. The family group chat lit up. Mom, you made your father sick. Chloe, you're unhinged. Liam's parents, we think you're abusive. Liam, lawyers. Dad sent nothing. Silence. I drove to the house the next day with the lease addendum and, ridiculously, a bag of bagels. Dad met me in the driveway, hands in his pockets like a kid caught shoplifting. She won't sign, he mumbled. She says it's an insult. It's a boundary, I corrected him. Utilities. No events. If you want to keep living here, you follow the rules we set 2 years ago. He nodded, then squinted at the paper like the words were moving. She's planning the rehearsal dinner for the backyard, he confessed, his voice barely audible. She says you can't stop a family celebration. I can't stop a family celebration, I agreed. But I will stop a commercial event. Mom chose that moment to open the door. No solicitors, she snapped at me, then slammed it shut again. Dad winced. I didn't leave the paper. I emailed it instead. I carbon copied the attorney who'd filed the deed. I turned off autopay on their cable and that catch-all family credit card I'd stupidly let Chloe use for emergencies. I kept the mortgage handled because it was mine now, but I cut the pipeline everyone assumed was infinite. The next week was quiet, except for the internal needles pricking at me. Chloe posted bridal shower photos, grateful for my tribe. Mom posted a Bible verse about forgiveness with a caption that wasn't subtle. Some sons repay love with cruelty. Then came the rehearsal week scramble. A stranger called from a 917 number. Hi, is this the owner of 114 Remington? The voice asked. I'm from Evergreen Tents. We're just confirming lawn stakes. We'll be there Friday at 9 a.m. Cancel, I said, my voice sharp and firm. No events. The tenants are not authorized to schedule rentals. If you need documentation, email me. Gave the address. 10 minutes later, I sent the signed occupancy agreement, carbon copying Dad. I did not apologize. Chloe called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. She texted, "You petty little man. You're ruining my wedding." Then, "You owe me. You owe us." Then, "I swear on everything you will regret this." I went for a run, silencing my phone. At mile 3, a resident paged me about a tibial plateau. At mile 4, the sky looked like rain. Rehearsal day came. No tents arrived. Chloe posted a story of the backyard with the caption, "Haters can't stop love." They strung cafe lights instead. Fine. The lease said, "No events over 20 people." They had 32. It counted in the video. I did not send a notice. I'm not a monster. I'm a man who finally understands the difference between holding a boundary and scoring a point. Wedding day. Saturday. The plan, from what Chloe had bragged about, was church at noon, photos at our childhood home. That phrasing still made my stomach turn. Then a downtown venue. At 11:30 a.m., I scrubbed out of a quick wrist repair. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then went static with vibration. I set it face down and checked the op note. When I flipped it over, the screen read like a slot machine. Mom, Dad. Unknown. Chloe. 12 missed calls became 21, then 49, then 60, stacked like dominoes. I didn't answer. I'm not proud. I just didn't. A text preview slid across the top. Mom, Caleb, please answer. Police are here. Another. Dad, it's about the house. Please. My chest went cold. I stepped into the hall and called Dad. He picked up on the first ring, breathing like he'd run a marathon. She called the cops, he blurted out, no hello. What? I demanded. She told the photographer the house was hers. The photographer set up in the living room. The neighbors complained about the cars on the lawn again. The patrol came. They asked who owned the property. Chloe said we did. Mom said we did. I finally said your LLC did. The officer asked for proof. Chloe told him you were lying to ruin her day. He called dispatch. They pulled the county record, and well, now there's an officer here saying the homeowner says no photos, no event unless the owner permits. The officer wants to talk to you. There are moments in surgery where you have 30 seconds to decide, and that decision determines everything. Plate or nail, cast or cut. This felt exactly like that. I'm not coming, I said, my voice clear and firm. Tell the officer he has my email. I'll send him the occupancy agreement and a written note allowing you and Mom to live there and have up to 20 guests as agreed. No commercial shoots. No wedding parties. That was always the rule. He can enforce it if the crowd exceeds that. Caleb. Dad whispered, shame and relief tangled in his voice. I'm sorry. I wrote the email. 2 PDFs attached. I CC'd Dad. I hit send. Then I turned my phone back over and went to see my post-ops, because bones do not wait for drama. At 3:12 p.m., Chloe texted me a photo. Her in her gown, sitting on the curb in front of the house, mascara running, middle finger raised defiantly. You ruined this, she wrote. I looked at her face, the girl who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during thunderstorms, and I felt something painful, yet profoundly clean. I typed. I didn't ruin anything. I told the truth and enforced a boundary. You chose a lie and an audience. No reply. That night, Dad called again. They started late, he said, his voice softer, quieter. They moved photos to the church. It was tense. Your mother didn't talk to me for 2 hours. Liam's parents said we're ungrateful. He paused. Chloe says she never wants to see you again. Another pause. The officer asked if I wanted a copy of the county record, he continued. I said yes. I think I needed to see it in my hands. I'm sorry it was today, I said. I'm sorry it had to be at all, he replied. I slept like I hadn't in years. A week later, those Aurelia bushes were still blooming, and the cafe lights Chloe had strung were still up, swaying gently in the wind. I pulled into the driveway, not to fight, not to gloat, but to drop off a manila folder labeled simply, What living here means. Mom didn't answer the door. Dad did. He looked older, yes, but also lighter, as if putting down the suitcase of a lifelong lie can make you stand taller. He led me to the kitchen. No roast chicken this time, no elaborate stage. Just coffee. He poured 2 cups and pushed one toward me. She thinks you humiliated her, he said. She says you made a scene. I didn't show up, I replied, a humorless smile touching my lips. That was the point. He nodded. I told her the truth. Humiliated us, not you. The folder held the same things as the email. The occupancy agreement, a simple lease for $1 a year. Because I'm dramatic like that. And a 1-page list. Utilities in their name, lawn care their responsibility, no events over 20 guests, no alterations without my consent, no liens, no loans, no signatures on anything with this address unless I sign too. Consequences were clear. 2 written warnings, then termination of occupancy. Not threats. Boundaries. I can't sign for her, Dad said, looking at the paper. I'm not asking you to, I replied. I'm asking you to sign for you. He did. The pen shook in his hand. I didn't comment. When I stood to leave, Mom appeared in the doorway, arms folded, a storm in her eyes. You're proud of yourself, aren't you? She spat. No, I said, meeting her gaze head-on. I'm done with myself. With who I became in this house. An ATM with a stethoscope. She scoffed. You'll regret this when we're gone and there's no family left. I'll regret not stopping sooner, I countered. I'll regret the years I missed because I was on hold for a plumber who wasn't real. I don't regret telling the truth. Chloe didn't reach out again. Liam unfriended me like we were still in high school. My phone blessedly went quiet. In that silence I started noticing things. The way the morning light hit my apartment. The actual taste of my coffee, not just gulping it down between emergency calls. Laughter with colleagues that wasn't weight-bearing, as we say in orthopedics. I started saying no at work too. I stopped taking every open call, every request to help out. I saw a movie on a Tuesday. I texted a woman I'd met a month earlier and apologized for disappearing. We went for ramen. I took 2 weekends away to hike. My shoulders finally unclenched, like someone had cut a hidden suture under my skin. 2 months later, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. Handwritten, no return address. Inside was a photo. Dad on the porch, holding a rake, a small grin on his face. The Aurelia bushes blooming behind him. In his blocky print, he'd written on the back. Paid the water bill on time. Fixed the step. It didn't kill me. A week after that, I got a text from a number I didn't have saved. 'Twas Chloe. House looks nice, she wrote. We're moving to an apartment closer to Liam's job. Cheaper, smaller, fine. Then, after a pause so long I thought that was it. I was angry because I thought I was owed. I don't know how to be anything else here. I'm not apologizing. Another pause. I didn't dance. I didn't sprint to the porch. I typed. I hope you build something that's yours. She heart reacted. Which, honestly, was the most Chloe thing possible. Mom still posts verses, some pointed, some not. We're civil when we need to be. I don't fix their internet anymore. I don't wire money. When Dad tries to slip cash into my pocket for coffee, I let him. He needs to feel like a father. I need to let him. Here's what I learned, and it's not profound, but it's mine. Love without boundaries is just guilt with better lighting. Being the steady one doesn't mean carrying everyone. It means setting the bones straight and letting the body do its work, even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. My mom said, "We're signing the house to your sister." My sister said, "Don't come to my wedding." I said, "Dad, should I tell them or will you?" His fork dropped and the truth landed. The calls came, 60 of them. I didn't answer. Answer to myself now. And the house. The house is finally just a house. Not a hostage. Not a trophy. A place with a lease on the fridge, a fixed porch step, and Aurelias that bloom whether we deserve them or not. I won't be their bank. I won't be their villain. I won't be their hero either. I'll just be Caleb. And that's enough. This journey was long and painful, but it led me to a freedom I never knew I was missing. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own well-being? Or set a difficult boundary that changed everything? I'd love to hear your stories and your thoughts on mine. Drop them in the comments below and let's talk about it.